Y'all need to help Stephen Phillips out over there. Out the door and off the radio.
Here's Stephen Phillips.
All righty, folks, we're coming into you sideways again. This is going to be a great show. We got Gary Chapman, singer-songwriter, all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Good morning. I'm better now that Harry's gone. Good grief.
Yeah.
You know, he seemed to have a little bit of an issue with those French farmers spreading crap all over the place. That's all he does. He should relate to those guys. Have a little compassion. My gosh,
We had 14 comments. We ain't even got started yet. It's all about Harry.
All about the last show.
Oh, man. And, hey, we got former six-term U.S. Congressman from Arizona, served on the House and Ways and Means Committee, veteran broadcaster, including work with Newsmax, and he has joined us. J.D. Hayworth, how are you doing this morning?
Hey, Stephen, great to be with you and Patrick and Gary. And so last hour, it was gypsies having a former member of Congress to talk about Big Pharma. Now we're going to cover tramps and thieves. Going back to Cher's a big hit. What was that?
well played. Well
played. From the golden age of top 40. Your listeners are hip to that.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not a hobby.
Welcome.
Welcome
To this show. Welcome to this
boys
show.
And girls, I got my hefty cup of Java from my alma mater, NC State. Don't start picking on State. I know you. There's Gary down there with his musical cup.
That's a dreamer. I'm a dreamer.
What's your new tune, Gary? What you got going now?
Man, I've got a bunch of new songs. That's the rest of the show if we go down this rabbit hole. Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. And then, of course, we got Pat Malone up there. He's probably drinking. What's he drink?
I think he drinks the Irish coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Vodka.
Vodka.
It looks like water.
Yeah.
He's a polygamist. Polygamist? Was it polygamist?
Polygamist?
Polygamist. Yeah, he's the polygamist.
Wow.
You know, I never did understand why that was such a terrible thing. I mean, if you support one woman, that's beautiful. If I supported two, wouldn't that be bigamy?
That would be masochism.
That would be big of you, yes.
That's reworking the old joke. What was it Groucho used to say?
Exactly.
You know what bigamy is, right? Two wives.
Yes.
I just don't want to do the honeydews, man. I don't want to do the honeydews. Anyway, JD's here with us, and he's not got a lot of time, so we'll jump on this right off the get-go. Big Pharma, man, are ripping us off, and you're trying to lead the light on this, where all people know about Big Pharma, and tell us what we got, man.
Well, the bottom line is we got a big bill that you and I are paying out of both ends, so to speak. I mean, we depend on pharmaceuticals. That's cool. We have some other things going on in terms of changes to healthcare. The most basic way to handle it is, of course, with the food we take in. But I'll spare you. I'm not a doctor, not going to play one on radio or TV. But as a former member of Congress, I can tell you pocketbook issues really matter to the American people. And for a long, long time now, we have been paying on average 3 times as much as the rest of the developed world for pharmaceuticals. So Big Pharma is really huge pharma. It's really global pharma. Yet you and I on the other end with our tax dollars are paying for a good bit of the research that is being done. Now, some of my fellow conservatives say, now, wait a minute, JD, you don't want to mess with the free market. Hey, gang, this ain't a free market. It's a market distortion. As Dr. Oz put it when he was on Face the Nation Sunday, it's global freeloading. And so the president has asked my old committee, Ways and Means, and other guys in the House and Senate to codify his executive order dealing with this most favored nation status. And all you really need to know is the president, Secretary Kennedy, a bipartisan group say, hey, let's put America first. Let's make America the most favored nation and have us play on a level playing field in terms of what we pay for prescription drugs.
Here.
Yeah, that would be crazy. Why would we want to do a thing like that?
Yeah, that's so shocking.
I mean, well, you know, we have been so. look, everybody, we got all this woke stuff where people are trying to go back and impose their current views on generations before. I think every biography needs to be called The Life and Times. And perhaps in the post-World War II era, there was a situation where Pax Americana, where the American nation could help lead the world in rebuilding. The problem is this: we have given and given and given and given, and we're going, wait a minute now. These other nations have, especially in the developed world, they're up to speed. And why are we inflicting the pain on ourselves to foot the bills for people worldwide? The global freeloading has got to stop.
When you say global freeloading, Mr. Congressman, I just want to make people aware that I read a stat that said Americans are 5% of the world's population of pharmaceutical users, but pay 75% of the profits for Big Pharma.
Yeah, and these profits are so huge. See, there's a difference. Anybody think Donald Trump is against profits? I don't.
No.
But there's a difference between profits and profiteering. Understand Big Pharma, the huge companies taken together, the guys that President Trump wrote a letter to late last week saying, look, I've tried to get to you. I've tried to tell you, get these things in line or there are going to be actions. And we heard yesterday he's talking tariffs for the drug manufacturing around the world. We'll get back to that in a second. But let me just point this out. The average profit margin for the big pharma companies is like 76%. That's more than twice the companies on the S&P 500. That doubles what they make. So the issue is not profit. The question is, why are we footing the bills the way we are to the point on average? This is just on average. We're paying 3 times as much as consumers, our European cousins, our neighbors to the north and down under and over in the Orient. There's something wrong with that, and it's high time we awaken to it. And guys, the good news is the American people get it. 84% of the American people say there's one group to blame for this, the companies known as Big Pharma. And heck, last year before the election, the Knight Family Foundation, forgive me, maybe a Kaiser Family Foundation, I knew it started with a K. They did election year. We always talk about things being polarized. Listen to this: 89% of Republicans, 84% of Democrats, 78% of independents said Big Pharma is more focused on profit. So the American people get it, and this ain't a partisan issue.
No.
Republicans, Democrats, independents, libertarians, vegetarians, heck, this is an American issue. That's why, far from the roar of the grease paint, the smell of the crowd, and all the social media, you actually see members of the House and Senate working together on legislation to try to bring this down. But of course, you got a president and truly a bipartisan group in his cabinet working to do the same thing. And I think ultimately that's going to be good news for the American people.
JD, I got to tell you, I really appreciate what you're doing. I do. I got one question though. I mean, if we succeed in this, don't we stand a chance of causing the media collapse that would be inevitable when they stop having all the money to pay for all the propaganda that goes on every major media outlet? How in the world are we going to stay informed?
Well, Gary, you have hit on it. You know, we all depend on the radio, you for songwriting and me for bloviating, as I've been known
Great
to
word.
do, both in and out of Congress, and now as a recovering congressman. But here's the fact on that. We call it direct-to-consumer advertising. But really, we're only talking about 2 nations in this entire world that allow advertising of pharmaceuticals.
Thank you.
The U.S. and New Zealand. That's it. Now, free speech, people say, what about First Amendment rights? Okay, understand this. Free speech ain't free when you and I are paying for it, and we're paying a huge chunk of that research and development through our tax dollars. Meantime, of all those profits, Big Pharma gets, they're spending only 17% of that on research and development. By the way, on that direct-to-consumer advertising, if I didn't mention it, $36 billion they have spent. Now, our polling shows 79% of the American people say, oh, look, we're not going to take away their First Amendment rights, but any tax breaks for advertising that have long been an accepted business expense, when it comes to Big Pharma, that's going to go away.
Yeah.
But we have restricted other kinds of advertising in the past. Advertising and free speech are really two different things.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, and they got this advertisement down because they put them ads on TV. I've got everything they say. Oh, you got body aches? You need this. Oh, yeah, I need
Make
that.
you a hypochondriac.
I can't figure out, like on what Trump calls the fat shot, the GLP stuff. Everybody's singing and dancing around. Man, they're in great shape to be able to sing and dance and do all that. So I begin to think that ain't really a factual representation of what might be going on with that clientele.
No, I don't think that's their core demographic. I don't. No.
Now you're with the Pharmaceutical Reform Alliance. Tell us about this. How do we be a part of this?
Well, it's real simple. I never want people to leave your show. And now that we got this hip kind of 4-way simulcast where folks can see us, I sure am glad I got cleaned up. That's right. Yes. That's like the chili in Cincinnati, a 5-way.
That's right. That's right. Please don't compare us to Cincinnati.
Thank you.
I look at that, I'm a native North Carolinian who went there to do television, then came out to the Southwest, and suddenly nothing was the same. But the real simple thing is, on the internet, pharmareformalliance.com. That's pharma with a PH. All right, pharmareformalliance.com. You'll get the info we have. We've just scratched the surface, and I'm glad you guys have invited me in, but that's the place to go and look at it. And you ask how I got involved. I kind of had a reputation during my days in Washington at telling it like it is, to the point where I used to mix it up with George W. on the border when he was talking about comprehensive immigration reform. I go, hey, Mr. President, that's amnesty, pal. And, so we kind of went. We even had a fight. A verbal kind of
just call it like it is, man. We had
one day about that. Another time I'll tell that story.
JD, I got a question. You alluded to the proposed tariffs on pharma earlier. Right. How does that square with reducing the cost to the consumer? If you put 150 or 250, whatever he's talking about, % tariff on, it makes your product even more expensive than it already is today.
Pat, you ask a very good question. Let me break it down for you a little bit. Yesterday, you may recall, when he appeared on CNBC, the president told Joe Kernan, my old buddies over there, hey, look, just want to put you on notice. Later this week, we may impose a small tariff. If nothing is done, it could go to 100%. It could go to 250%. Patrick, one thing about business, they understand enlightened self-interest. The same guys who are making the dough go, wait a minute, we're not going to pay for that kind of thing. And if you've seen, the company said, within the last 6 months, we're planning to come home and build pharmaceutical making plants. We should have never gotten away from that. This is an issue, again, with our major global adversary making about 3/4 of the acetaminophen, the pain reliever we take, with having China put elements of antifreeze into some anti-hypertensive medicines. There are real questions about, are the Chinese on the up and up with the pharmaceuticals they're making in the first place?
No,
we need to bring that home. Will there be a bump? Sure, but will it be this massive inflation? I don't think so, Patrick, because what Mr. Trump is teaching us, that used in the right way, tariffs can be a powerful tool to incentivize business to understand proper priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me follow up with the question. Why did we send pharmaceutical manufacturing offshore in the first place?
we got this stupid notion, and JD the younger, now the vice president. I thought there was going to be another guy who had that job with a different last name. But I'm glad it's JD the younger. He gave a speech, I believe, at the Reagan Library, talking about the value of American citizenship. And he made this point, this notion of the global economy. The American people are not, American citizens are not just unthinking cogs to be plugged into a global economy. It's fine when there's international commerce, but again, we should have never, ever eliminated the notion of manufacturing in the United States. And we got to get back to it. And because the pendulum swung so far in one direction, Mr. Trump very assertively, through hard-nosed negotiations, is righting that course, and we dare not do it again. But then again, I'd point out Robert Bartley, what was it, July 4th, 1999, lead editorial in the Wall Street Journal. He proposed a 5-word amendment to the Constitution. There shall be open borders. What are you talking about? 9/11 showed us we better have borders and we better protect them. And our failure to do that, that's something Mr. Trump moved to correct immediately. This is the other pressing problem in terms of prioritizing most favored nation status for the United States of America.
I'm going to tell you that 9/11, I mean, people forget so quick. And look where New York City's at right now.
Yeah.
And after 9/11, that's unreal to me. I just don't understand it.
Well, and recall, we all had good school teachers, but now we've allowed the educational system to become a repository. I'll be very diplomatic today. If nothing else, chronic complainers, free to pursue their own lifestyle without the insights or thoughts from parents. Right? We saw that up in Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C.
Right.
When you don't have parental input, when you don't have standards, it's that slippery slope. And over the last 3 decades, we've moved from education to indoctrination.
Yes.
You dumb down the people, even the Ivy League crowd especially. And it's a family show, so I won't say what LBJ used to say about the Ivy Leaguers. We've gotten in a situation where we have allowed ourselves to be hornswoggled. And you talk about being woke. Here's the difference. The American nation now is awake, and we got to move to act on these things.
Amen.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Man, you got all the words. You got all the words.
I also got, we'll see, Gary C.
I could listen to you bloviate about getting hornswoggled all morning.
You know, reading when we were kids, Reader's Digest, toward more picturesque speech. And then when I got old enough to drink coffee, this big old cup of high test right here got me primed and ready.
There you
go. It's working.
Hey JD, I have one quick question that I wanted to ask
JD to you.
Mr. JD.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
You know, we mentioned I mentioned earlier that the United States we basically fund 75% of the profits of Big Pharma, and we also know that the profits is what they use to invest in R&D for pharmaceutical innovation, if you will. My original concern was, if we cut down their profits, won't that cut into the R&D? But you kind of already addressed that by saying they're only spending 17% of their profits on R&D.
Now, make no mistake, and we touched on it earlier. The kind of dough they're making is considerable, but in the aggregate, they're only spending about 17% of that on research and development.
Wow.
Now, the American people are funding a good chunk, obviously through what we're paying cash on the barrelhead, but also in terms of tax dollars. Because I will tell you, back when I was elected to Congress, first Republican majority in 30 years, do the math, as a callow 36-year-old, we got so much grief in Washington. There was one group that we thought was sacrosanct and was doing the right thing, and that was public health. Boy, we come to learn that left unchecked, they can become as sclerotic and as with questionable judgment as anyone else in any other part of our society. So again, this is part of the American awakening, and we're going, wait a minute. We don't mind. First of all, I depend on prescription drugs daily. Heck, when I was in Congress, we made it a part of Medicare because of seniors with fixed incomes. But even now, with that, you've got about 1/3 of American families going, well, maybe I can skip a dose this day. Maybe I can do something to alleviate the cost. We've got to get it down. Again, this ain't a problem of party. It's a problem of a predicament that all Americans are facing. The good news is the president is working on it. I'm asking my former colleagues in Congress to come on, get with the program, and codify into law what the president's talked about in his executive orders.
JD, aren't most of the big pharmaceutical companies, when you talk about R&D costs, aren't they really acquiring a lot of these small startups in place of spending money on R&D?
Again, Patrick, you hit on a very good point. And not only are they getting that on the front end, but let's say on the back end. Because some folks listening to this conversation may say, now, wait a minute, JD, I'm able to get generic drugs, and that brings down the prices. Well, understand the 3 times as much total I've been talking about as other developed nations, that includes geriatrics. But understand this, the administration has moved, Patrick, right now, the Federal Trade Commission, and again, there are bills in Congress I hope will move forward to end what's called patent thicketing. It's where patents are delayed. We all believe in intellectual property rights being unique to the companies that come up with something, but for public health, that should not be prolonged. So again, it's a deal on both ends, if you will, Patrick, the acquisition of new companies and the suppression of new drugs marketed in an exclusive way to charge more money. And I touched on the fat shots earlier, as that's what Trump calls them, the GLP stuff. The average dose of that stuff costs $5. It's costing some Americans in the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. The markup is unbelievable.
Per month. Per month.
Yeah, making everybody chicken necks. That's what we call them, chicken neck drugs. So anyway, JD, I know you wasn't going to be on here but 20 minutes. We've held you over. We've got to get to a break. And you're coming back, right? You're going to come back with us?
Well, if you'd like to have me back, who am I to leave yet? We're having such a good time.
Oh, no, man. We get carried away.
I tell you what, I'll hang in with you if you're willing to put up with me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That seems fair.
Yep. All right, well, let's get to a quick break, folks. And we'll be right back on the other side. We appreciate you. All righty, we're back with you, and J.D. Hayworth is hung around. He is actually representing Pharmaceutical Reform Alliance, and man, he is filling us in on all this stuff that's going on. Now, you was with the Ways and Means Committee, and that does a lot of healthcare policy. How does that change your views on you being on one side and now you're on the other?
Well, it's not so much being on one side or the other. Let me let you in on a little secret. The idea of winning elections is to persuade people to your point of view, yes, but also understand what it is they want done. It doesn't mean you're an empty vessel, but what was that? I think it was the British Prime Minister Disraeli, way back in the 1800s, who said, I must follow the people. After all, am I not their leader? And so part of being responsive is listening to the electorate, listening to the people in your district. And I would just tell my former colleagues in Congress and those who want to get there, the polling we did at the Pharmaceutical Reform Alliance a couple of months ago showed that fully 86% of Americans will support a member of Congress or a candidate willing to stand up to Big Pharma. Now, life and times, different times, we moved to make prescription drugs part of Medicare with what we call Part D. Now that I've aged into that, hey, I'm kind of glad that it's there. Not so much for me, but for other seniors who really need the help.
Right.
We've got to understand pressure on the pocketbook, and that will bring pressure at the ballot box. And so members of both parties need to approach this as Americans They can go off and fight with Trump on something else and go through that derangement syndrome. But on this issue, the American people are speaking loudly and clearly. Now, it is worth noting, and I'll raise my hand on this, been there, done that, the perception that the money you raise for your campaign turns you into a robot or somebody where they're pulling the strings.
Right.
That ain't the case. What happens is, we'll call it euphemistically government relations. Every industry, every American has the right to advocate for their point of view. Where it gets crazy, and the Make America Healthy Again group that President Trump and Secretary Kennedy assembled a few months ago put out a report over a 20-year period. Big Pharma spent, I believe it was $5 billion on lobbying, both on Capitol Hill and in the 50 state capitals, and also in terms of drumming up citizen support, another $6 billion. Now, I'd be the biggest hypocrite in the world to say, well, I never had that kind of help. Now, of course I did, but I didn't sit there and look at it and go, oh, well, these guys gave this. That would be called quid pro quo, something for something, and that's against the law.
Right.
But at the time, as we were trying to bring together a group that we all depend on into the fold in terms of Medicare to help seniors, I stand by that vote in terms of that prescription drug benefit. But we need to make sure that now we don't allow Big Pharma arbitrarily just to raise prices. Give you an example. It's not market-based, as bad as the inflation was under the Biden bunch. The fact is that on January 1st, Big Pharma got together about 800 medicines, pharmaceuticals, people take, people depend on. The prices arbitrarily went up with the change of the calendar year. Not based on market conditions, just based on how do we help the bottom line. That kind of stuff has to stop because, again, when the American people are paying on average 3 times as much as consumers in the rest of the developed world, that ain't right.
I'm with you on that, but that's the thing. I think a lot of politicians, though, or we feel like, or I feel like, once they do get these big donations, then they kind of lean that way, and that's one of the reasons we think that all politicians, instead of wearing suits, they ought to have like the NASCAR, these fire suits with their sponsors on it. Who's your sponsor? Who's
your daddy?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's an interesting thought. Yeah, to kind of turn Congress into NASCAR, it would certainly be more colorful.
You know who their sponsor is.
But,
you want to know who they're driving
line
for.
is,
You're an NC State grad. You got to like NASCAR. Come on.
Yeah, well, you better believe it, man. I mean, I grew up just a few miles beyond Level Cross, Petty Enterprises.
There you go. There you go.
And I know North Georgia, the proud legacy of Awesome Bill from Dawsonville.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
The gang, and heck, I was at Channel 4 Greenville for 5 years before I went to Cincinnati. So we covered our sports director. Got to get down to Daytona. I'd wait for spring training. He'd be boom down there to cover that stuff. But let me get back to this for a second. Secretary Kennedy made a good point. Big Pharma has the dough to have lobbyists, personal lobbyists for all 435 members of the House, all 100 members of the U.S. Senate, and the 9 justices on the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, he wasn't saying that's the case. He's saying that's the infrastructure those guys enjoy. But something's happened. It's typified here with what we're doing, both on the radio and our 5-way discussion where folks can see us. The internet opens up, small d democratizes what it is we're doing. And that's why, again, after our conversation, go to the website, pharmareformalliance.com. pharmareformalliance.com. You'll get a lot more detail there, which you can read at your own speed and take a look at it. But we have to deal with that. And this last quarter, the second quarter of 2025 on Capitol Hill, Big Pharma spent, gosh, I don't want to be wrong about I'm more verbally than mathematically inclined. So maybe
Right.
that's one of the problems in Washington too. But
Yeah.
the millions of dollars spent, well, you'll find it there on the website. I don't want to misquote it. I got my glasses on. I'll go back and check the numbers. Suffice to say, it's a whole lot of money because
It's a bunch.
Yeah.
JD, isn't the money that's spent on lobbying and advertising to consumers, aren't those First Amendment issues?
Well, again, First Amendment issues, it's one thing in terms of advocacy. Yeah, people have the right to advocate. And I guess it was Mr. Justice Brandeis who talked about transparency being the best disinfectant. So that's one issue. Nobody contests that. But in broadcasting, and we recall for many years, and heck, I started in radio when I was 14, back when some certain hygiene products were just allowed to be discussed on radio and television. And there was a great hue and cry about that. But we've allowed advertising to continue, yet we have some prohibitions on it. For example, a certain beverage with hops and barley related, marketed on sports programming. The deal is, the rules are, you can never see somebody take a swig of their favorite adult beverage. There are certain rules that have been adopted. And again, what is being proposed, there's a bill in front of the Ways and Means Committee to say, look, Big Pharma, you want to advertise, fine, but we're going to take away your ability to write it off in terms of taxation. And that really doesn't deal with the First Amendment. It does deal with the consequence of using this thing. And when we're looking at what, 36 billion in direct-to-consumer advertising, most of it on television, that is a problem.
So we're gonna penalize Big Pharma by limiting what they can advertise. Is that what you're proposing?
I'm saying we ought to take a look at it, and I'm saying that the tax break. It's one thing to have let's say it's research and development, Patrick.
Yeah.
You and I could agree on that, and understand the tax code is made up in a way. The late great Milton Friedman said, and this really kind of hurt my feelings when I got to Washington and got to serve on this committee. He said, sadly, things have devolved to the point where the Constitution is not foremost in the minds of legislators. Really, in terms of public policy, we design the tax code to bring about certain behaviors.
Correct.
Now, good, bad, or indifferent, it can be used in a way that actually helps people.
Right.
Again, hear me, we're not talking about taking away the right to advertise, but Big Pharma enjoying a sizable tax break for that advertising. Whoa, hang on a second.
Every business in America enjoys a break for writing off advertising.
Well, every business that is permitted to advertise.
Right. When's the last cigarette commercial?
Permitted to advertise.
Cigarette commercials.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a gatekeeping function to our regulatory state. And, I chronicled stuff when I was getting into adolescence, and I was kind of surprised to see show up on the airwaves, speaking quite candidly. And it's just expanded since then.
Well, no, going back to what you just said about going back to who wrote the tax code, though, and going back to pharmaceutical companies lobbying and giving money to the politicians who wrote the tax code that incentivizes them to advertise. So it does affect what happens very clearly because they're the ones writing the tax code.
Well,
right?
One of the things that I think, and I might be wrong about this, but I feel like Big Pharma beats down the common drug that's actually working. I'm a big ivermectin guy. I mean, I remember back when COVID was going on, and I took ivermectin, and it worked. You can't even get it now, and it's like it's just obscured.
And I feel in my house.
Well, yeah, you can't in mine. I'm with you on that, but I just feel like Big Pharma's got so much pull. They kill this stuff that's just common cold cures.
Well, that's true, but also we allowed public health to be incredibly politicized.
Yeah.
And like a lot of government, and I think, again, I was honored to serve, but there's a good reason it's called the swamp. In fact, I had a buddy who was chief of staff for one of my colleagues, and a guy literally, one of my not so much childhood buddies, but we met across the line of scrimmage as high school sophomores and have remained lifelong friends. And a decade ago, when I was at Newsmax TV, he retired. He said, man, DC is a dark place.
Yeah.
I just, we fought this battle. There are other people who can step in and they can fight it. And look, it's like I served 6 terms. Now the voters dispatch me. That it's the House. It's not a home. Maybe one day they'll put me in a home, but
Right.
the House, you should have changes in politics. But to the tax code, I'll give you a real life example. Back, I guess it was 2004, a guy who was a billionaire, had owned broadcasting stations, had moved into exclusively into billboard communications and had sold his billboard company for billions. He came up to me at a dinner when President Bush was there and he said, hey, why aren't you on any important committee? And you have to understand, well, sir, let's think about that for a second. You see, I serve on the Ways and Means Committee, right. And it's really important because all revenue bills must originate in the House. Right. And you succeeded based on your business acumen, but also something that Patrick said a little bit earlier, and we've been talking about for the last few minutes here. One of the other reasons is the tax code allows businesses to have a deduction for advertising. Mm-hmm. So, sir, when you stop and think about it, I'm really on the most important committee. And that's why, again, the Ways and Means Committee controls the tax code, has a big chunk of health under its portfolio. And I believe it's Chairman Miller from Missouri now, or Chairman Smith. He will have the duty, along with my colleague back here in the 1st District of Arizona, now 2 terms removed from my time there. It wasn't a clear thing. Somebody from the other side had to knock me out in 06. But those guys have an awesome responsibility, as does the rest of the House and the Senate, to respond to public pressure. And so that's very important. But yeah, when you pull back the curtain, a lot of different variables involved in all of this.
JD, we're going to have to get going, man. I want you to definitely come back in a day or 2 if I can get you. I'd love to have you back and talk.
Well, I'm happy to be with you fellas, and like a boomerang and or malaria, I'll come back.
There you go.
Happy to be a repeat offender, guys.
Oh, there you go. We're going to have you back more. I'll guarantee. This has just been too fun.
Just
appreciate what you're doing, brother.
Again, pharmareformalliance.com.
There you go.
Yes,
Thank
indeed.
you so much, JD Hayworth. We appreciate this, and we'll have you back. We'll definitely have you back. It's been a lot of fun, and I know poor Pat Malone's up there. He's very confused, but he's going to make it. But anyway, we're going to get to a break.
A little bit of breaking news. I don't know if you've seen it come across your teletype yet. Marsha Blackburn has officially announced for governor of Tennessee this morning.
Right on.
Really?
I just texted her and said, sick 'em. Anything you need, let me know. She instantly, she's amazing, dude. Right. Instantly responded. Thanks. Appreciate the help. Off we go. It's just
awesome.
The whole thing about Pete Hegseth, that was a lie, dude. That was a lie. That was just false.
Well, I'd love to get her on, but I want to hurt her career possibilities.
Yeah, you might slow her down a little bit. I don't know.
Is that possible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shoot. When you get in that zone,
right?
Like we wouldn't be the first bite they would take, but they're going to eat everything in front of them. So yeah.
I meant, is it possible to slow her down?
No, no,
well,
not a chance. No, that's a bus that was easy to decide to get on. I mean, I was already there, but yeah.
So how many people's running now? Or do you think
for
that
Gov?
So far, one. I don't know who. It'll be somebody. Somebody on the other side will get cocky and give it a shot, but it's a futile effort.
Well, that's a big deal, man. Yeah, and
it's a great thing. It's a great thing. Yeah.
Actually,
she'll be a heck of a governor. Really good.
And they actually asked Trump yesterday about J.D. Vance being the next president. You know? And I think he kind of
said, looking like it. Yeah, Vance Rubio. Bang, bang.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Wow. Yeah, that's gonna be good. If we can get Georgia in there too, we'll be all right. So you'll be on the campaign trail. Sounds like.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Got to do it. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
So the cool thing is, so you write her a song, and then if the create bill becomes law, and you can can write off your recording production expenses for that.
Yeah. Well, I already can.
Yeah.
No, it's the beauty of being a songwriter. Everything's deductible. Everything
Amen,
inspires me.
Oh, there you go. Gary, man, I appreciate you letting us bring him on your show.
No, dude, he's awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, it was good. So anyway.
Bring it.
I think, is Andrew Clyde coming Friday? They want to
I
know.
hope so.
All right. Hopefully we'll have Andrew Clyde. And then tomorrow we got the sisters. I think they're supposed to come on. I can't even remember their name. That's terrible.
McCrary.
McCrary sisters. Yeah, hopefully they'll be on tomorrow. So anyway.
They can sing the paint off the walls.
There you go. Hey, we appreciate y'all. And we'll talk to you
See ya.
tomorrow. Be good, Gary.
Bye, Pat.
See ya.